We'll spend the great majority of time speaking of the forebrain. Nearly everything that's relevant to us in psychology is part of the forebrain. And what we mean by forebrain is not the same as the frontal lobe. It's the outer 2/3 or 3/4 if you're thinking of a mushrooming pattern. So parts of the forebrain are in the rear of the brain, of course. It does nothing to do with back to front or dorsolateral to rearward. The forebrain. Some of the structures of the forebrain are presented in figure 2.1, which, by the way, was kind of a crappy figure in your text, so I went and got another one. The thalamus, for example, is yet another structure for relaying information, especially to the cerebral cortex. Basically, smells, texture, etc. If I smell a scented candle, if I have the texture of sandpaper, my thalamus takes that sensory information and makes sense of it. And of course, memory is at play there. I remember one of my strongest smells as a little kid, my earliest memories, age 4, I guess. Someone was making a strawberry cake. I think it was for my 4th birthday, and my grandfather visited. And that smell for the rest of my life now, that's 50 years ago, has lingered with me. And my thalamus is involved in interpreting that. The hypothalamus controls the pituitary gland by releasing hormones, specialized chemicals that help to regulate other glands. It controls homeostatic behaviors. You remember homeostasis, such as eating, drinking, temperature control, sex, etc. So eventually I'm finished eating, or I'm very hungry and I want to eat. Eventually I'm finished sleeping, or I've been out of bed 17 hours and I want to sleep. Your body picks up on these things, and it wants to regulate us into the middle so that things aren't going to extremes, as Billy Joel says. So temperature, it has a warning system if we're getting up to 102 or down to 94. Not much of a range there. So that hypothalamus is very busy. So some of these are part of the limbic system. There's the hypothalamus, etc. The hippocampus is sort of a mushroom or a horseshoe-shaped organ that traverses both hemispheres, left and right, involved in memories. So especially associative memories from an early age. Your earliest recollections of relatives, your familiarization with your early caregivers relied on that hippocampus. In rare cases, if someone loses hippocampal function due to a virus called an encephalitis, or a viral infection called an encephalitis, and that hippocampus is damaged, a person can't form new memories. They have anterograde amnesia, and they can't remember a conversation they had just minutes ago. And in that case, they would need institutionalization. Later in the semester, we'll discover someone with that very situation who is now about 80 years old and cannot remember conversations due to a hippocampal infection. And you know what the hippocampus infection was the herpes virus 1, which is responsible for cold sores. And for some reason, it attacked his hippocampus. It's a rare thing. The great majority of people have HSV1. It's, 80%. And there's the thalamus and hypothalamus. The amygdala is responsible for emotions. You write it. If you watch a wrenching movie, a hilarious movie, see a touching scene, romance, etc., your amygdala underpins all those things. And if a stroke victim loses functioning in the amygdala, they have what they call flat affect. They simply don't feel those emotions. So it's a uniquely human part of us. And by the way, that amygdala is probably the size of maybe 2 unshelled peanuts. It's really small, and it's sort of buried down there in the limbic system, but nonetheless is in the forebrain. We discussed, there it is. The hippocampus is involved in the formation of long-term memories, and there's the amygdala, which is the strength of emotional memory. So, it's certainly got its relevant parts. When we come back, we'll get into the cerebral cortex. But I love this chapter because I think she does a good job at striking things with the right balance. It doesn't take long to read the chapter. Hell, it's written pretty well. But she has a good way of reconciling 2 our most important things without getting too bogged, in my opinion.